All right, it's the day before we leave for the BDR. Here's the bike. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous. This has been years in the making. I wanted to do this once before and then never pulled the trigger. So we're finally going. I think I got everything I would absolutely need to do this BDR trip. The bike is maybe a little smaller than I really wish I had. I'd rather have an Africa Twin or something bigger, but we're going to get it done on this, and then maybe next year, if we absolutely love this and got to keep doing it, then we'll upgrade. I'll see you in the morning.
Lone adventurer. Adventure ride. Moto. Off-road. Street ride. Mountain bike. Lone adventurer. Moto Mike. Average vet rider. Street bike Mike. Mountain bike Mike. Selected. Adventure ride. Lone adventurer.
All right, so it looks like we're gonna have to do a voice over of this video here. So I'm just getting onto Happy Jack Road, leaving Cheyenne, and we're heading up towards Kurt Gowdy. And in Medicine Bow National Forest, basically, is where we're coming up to, and Kurt Gowdy State Park, which is a local place here near Cheyenne for really good mountain biking and some fishing and stuff. You're not allowed to swim in the water for some weird reason, but you can put a gas-powered boat in the water, which is a tad bit confusing. But we're moving along. Obviously, you can hear wind noise. I have it turned down quite a bit. The GoPro just is not the best camera for this. I have little fuzzies over the microphone to try and cut down the wind noise, but it's just not working. So let's go on to the next clip. All right, guys, welcome back to the Lone Adventure. We are headed to the Wyoming BDR. Just filled up the bike, reset the trip computer, so we'll get a total mileage for this trip. And I have to drive out to Wyoming from Cheyenne down I-80. And then I got to get on the BDR. And then once I complete the BDR at the Montana border, I have to drive down the interstate to Cheyenne. Alright guys, well, let's put saved bags. Go. Alright. Let's start coming down the mountain here in Laramie. We've gone about 40 miles. So here we are, we're coming down the mountain, about to enter Laramie from coming onto the interstate after taking Happy Jack Road to basically the Lincoln Memorial rest stop at the top of the mountain. You could take I-80 all the way over, however there's a lot of construction going on right now, so I thought it was best to take the more, I guess, picturesque ride through Kurt Gowdy State Park and down Happy Jack. So we're coming down the mountain. I know obviously the GoPro doesn't show. It's a relatively steep grade. There's multiple lanes and Mack trucks going up and down. And actually on the ride back, once I decided to call it because I literally cannot or could not figure out how to use these tracks. I think I figured out in Garmin Basecamp how to make the tracks turn by turn and have a little bit understanding now. So I am going to make another attempt at a BDR and try and do the BDR Red Desert this year. And then I have a group of guys who are planning to do the full Wyoming BDR next season once I get a little bit more experience with working with these tracks and such. But here we are coming down the mountain, about to head into Laramie. And honestly, the CB500, it's actually decent, and at 80 miles an hour it does get a little vibey to start, but it almost feels like the bike catches up to itself and the vibration goes away. Now that could be me getting used to the vibration, but overall I was happy with how it performed, given that it's a CB500. It's not even a true 500cc motorcycle. So here I am, I've just left bags and I put in the GPS tracks, and I'm traveling down the road thinking eventually the GPS will turn me onto the route and then I can start the BDR route, not knowing that the yellow and red lines that also show on the GPS are the tracks, and you actually need to get yourself to the line and then shut off auto zoom and that portion and then just follow the line on your own. So I guess I didn't do nearly enough research on how to do this before I headed out. But I've just left bags. I'm going along, and I'm starting to think, well, maybe in a little bit it will put me on the route, given that I had already traveled through Savory, Wyoming, which I knew was part of the route.
It looks like the pump is running, so let's get some gas. We made it to Bags. Left Cheyenne at 8 a.m. 226 miles from Cheyenne to Bags. So we're here. We're taking a short break. I was checking my phone so I could call my wife and my kids, and now we're gonna head onto the route. So pretty excited to be here in a small little town. So thanks for coming along. Like I said, Wyoming's a free-range state, so it's not uncommon to find cows on the road. Just gotta show respect to the livestock. So as you can see here, we're coming down. I'm stuck behind a few cars. They occasionally moved over out of the way, like this car here, so it could speed up and go by. This is one of the most beautiful, I guess, and most picturesque mountain roads I've ever ridden on. And the majority of the cars would move out of the way so that I could go by. And here I'm actually pretty frustrated the fact that I'm still on the pavement. And this was well over 300 miles into the ride. This one truck in front of me would not move, so eventually I would have to make a move past him. I did find in this particular section, using the Shinko 804s, 805s with the little knobs on them, when they repair the pavement, and they have basically those little tar lines where they repair your pavement, up here they were really thick, and if you weren't paying attention, they would grab the tire and start to move you. And it almost caught me off guard to the point where the front end was almost turning on me before I was prepared for it. So it was quite an experience, because I had never ridden a street bike in that situation. I've ridden dirt bikes on the street in dual sports, but that was something else. But this was a very beautiful ride down, coming out of the mountain. So here we are. I've been going for a significant amount of time, overly frustrated with the situation and the fact that yet again I've still not found the route. So I had stopped at a little look off, I believe is what it was called, and put the drone up thinking, well, I'm going to put this up and see if I can find the route. And it did not help. So I could still see the road, but I could not find the route. And I was getting frustrated, and I had kept going through towns that I knew were on the route for section 1. Basically, you took the roads and you would come into these small towns and then go back out. But at this point, I still had not figured out that I actually need to put myself on the yellow or red lines and get myself to the track. So this was being the first BDR experience that I had trying to get to it. Did not turn out to be everything that I had hoped it would be. So it ended up turning into basically a 500-mile road loop. So 7.5 hours, I did 500 miles and never actually found the actual BDR route. Just this big, huge circle on the pavement. So here we are. I'm coming back into Centennial, where Snowy Range is and the whole area, which is gorgeous. Mountains, water next to the road. There was a lot of tourists doing hiking and fishing and such, but I was pretty frustrated at this point. And it was at this point that I decided, okay, well, I'm just going to call it. Now, I could have went up to Rob Roy Reservoir, which I knew was on the route, and maybe that would have done it. But 7.5 hours, I have a multiple repaired right knee from motocross injuries because I was a local pro motocross rider in the Wyoming and Nebraska area for a while. And at this point, my knee had locked, so I couldn't really stand up and lift my right leg. It was just kind of stuck in that position. I think that's the first time since it's been repaired over and over again that it had been stuck in one position basically for 7 hours. And I had pivot pegs. I was moving back and forth. I was able to put my legs out onto my front crash bars and kind of use them like highway pegs, but it wasn't doing anything to help. So overall, what I learned was you need to do more research before you head out on this type of trip if you've never been on one. So I'm working on getting the tracks figured out, which is something that, they don't tell you. You see all these wonderful grand videos of adventure rides and BDRs, but I'm certainly not new to motorcycling. I've been riding motorcycles since the 80s, but I am new to using these GPS tracks. So at this point, I'm frustrated. I decided to call it, and we're going to end the video here with a failed BDR attempt. All right, guys. Well, there you go. The first BDR attempt for the lone adventurer, and it did not work out. I should have done more research to figure out how to properly use the tracks and have it all figured out. In the grand scheme of things, it was a beautiful ride, and I had taken a couple weeks off of work to be able to do this, and I failed. And I'm, adult enough to say sometimes things don't work out how you planned them. So I'm sorry for the voiceover. The GoPros, like I said, really are just not good for this type of stuff because the microphones are trash on GoPros. I'm going to look into getting some maybe DJIs that have external microphones and things like that. So thanks for watching it. Thanks for tuning in. And like I said, probably September, mid to late September, I'm going to shoot for the Red Desert BDRX. And hopefully I have the tracks figured out by then. I'll do a couple pre-runs of like the backside of section 1 and section 2 of the BDR because those are close to my house because they run through Centennial. So thanks for tuning in. I know this is not the most exciting video. We got plenty of projects on the channel coming out. I'm going to ride my local motocross track here in Cheyenne. It's only prepped once a year for public open practice. So we'll do that. And I had just redone the suspension on the 23 450 RS. I have a first ride video coming for my Beta 300 RX. And then I got a couple little fun ideas to do. Obviously, I'm not trying to blow up like everyone else that gets in YouTube. I already had a failed YouTube channel, so just doing this for fun and having something to look back on now. So thanks for tuning in. And if you like the videos, like and subscribe, and you'll see whatever nonsense I put out next. Thanks a lot.